Hola and welcome to ProSpanish. We're going to make this a snappy one today, but very useful nonetheless. Advanced subscribers may wish to skip forward to the time frame that comes up on the screen now, or stick with us for the extra practice. Okay, so I'm sorry. You may or may not know that I'm sorry is lo siento. Lo siento. More literally, it means I feel it. Siento is I feel. It is lo. So, lo siento, I feel it, or it I feel. I'm not sorry. No lo siento. I don't feel it. Have a look at this structure. Siento oír eso. Siento oír eso. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. And you can see here we're not saying lo siento oír eso. We're just saying siento oír eso. Now we don't need to go too much into the ins and outs of this. What you might want to do is think of siento as, instead of feel, which it also obviously means, but think of it as regret. Siento, I regret. So when we're saying I'm sorry, we would say I regret it. Lo siento. So we'd have the it there. But if we're saying I'm sorry to hear that, we wouldn't say I regret it to hear that. We would say I regret to hear that. And that's why the lo is being left out now, and it's just siento. So lo siento when it's I'm sorry by itself, but siento without the lo and the to do, the infinitive verb afterwards. So let's have a look at another one. So to bother somebody, to bother is molestar. Molestar. Looks like to molest, but it actually means to bother. Molestar. To bother you, well, it's a bit like to molest you, but it's to bother you. Molestarte. Molestarte. So to bother you, so it goes straight on the end of the word. To bother, we add the te, the te, the you part. So to bother you, molestarte. So how would you say, I'm sorry to bother you? What would that be? Siento molestarte. Siento molestarte. I'm sorry to bother you. So it's not I regret it to bother you. It's just I regret to bother you. Siento molestarte. Okay, let's have a look at some other. Okay, let's look at some other very useful language around this, because it often doesn't work exactly the same way as it does in English. So we'll start with the I'm sorry or the I regret part. Siento, siento, and we'll also have we're sorry. Sentimos, we're sorry. Sentimos. Let's have a look at some verbs that can go with this. So, cancelar a última hora. Cancelar a última hora. Cancelar, nice and easy, to cancel. To cancel at the last minute. But of course it doesn't say minute there. In Spanish, it's to cancel at the last hour. In English, we would say to cancel at the last minute. Cancelar a última hora. Next we have llegar tarde. Now this is an interesting one, because if we want to say I'm sorry I'm late, very common useful phrase, we're sorry we're late. In Spanish the construction is I'm sorry to arrive late. So we won't have I'm late, it's to arrive late. We're sorry to arrive late. So whenever you want to say, I'm sorry I'm late, you say, siento llegar tarde. Sorry to arrive late. The next one, we've got a couple of infinitives together. So we've got no poder, to not be able. Poder, to be able. No poder, not to be able, or to not be able. And then ayudar is to help. Ayudarte, to help you. So we could have, I'm sorry not to be able to help you. And that's a bit of a mouthful because in English we'd actually just say, I'm sorry I can't help you. Or I'm sorry that we can't help you. But in Spanish, the construction is using the infinitive, the to-do verb. So, siento no poder ayudarte. I'm sorry that I can't help you. Sentimos no poder ayudarte. We're sorry that we can't help you. Okay, and now another one with poder and no poder. No poder asistir a la reunión. So asistir is, well, here it's like to go to the meeting. La reunión is the meeting. We could also say to attend the meeting. But to help you remember the a la, it works a bit more as in to go to the meeting. A la, to the meeting. So not to be able to, or to not be able to attend the meeting, to not be able to go to the meeting. I'm sorry to not be able to go to the meeting. Again, doesn't sound right in English. We would say, I'm sorry that I can't go to the meeting. We're sorry we can't attend the meeting. Okay, the next one we have to have to. Tener que is to have to. I have to is tengo que. So to have to is tener que. Decirte, to tell you, to say to you, this. So tener que decirte esto. To have to tell you this. So we can have, we're sorry to have to tell you this. I'm sorry to have to tell you this. And that works a little bit more like the construction in English, although we may say, I'm sorry I have to tell you this, instead of I'm sorry to have to tell you this, or we're sorry. Verte, to see you. Verte tan triste. To see you so sad. Verte tan triste. To see you so sad. Decepcionar is to disappoint. Decepcionar. Decepcionarte, with a T-E, decepcionarte, to disappoint you. And of course in Latin America, that th sound, decepcionar, in Latin America that is pronounced like the S. Decepcionarte, to disappoint you. And one we had earlier, molestarte, to bother you, molestarte. Okay, so before we do some practice with this, let's just take apart some of the phrases. So what was the verb that meant to cancel? Cancelar. Cancelar. In Latin America, cancelar. So the th doesn't exist there, the sound, it's a s sound. Cancelar. How do you say to attend? Asistir. Asistir. What's the verb for to bother? Molestar, molestar. And to bother you, molestarte. How do we say to tell you? To tell you. Try and find that. Decirte. Decirte. To tell you. A quick pause there while I mention our very popular Levels 1 to 6 course. This takes the complete beginner or a near beginner right up to a conversational level of Spanish in a series of very easy to follow steps. All the lessons on this YouTube channel are supplementary, whereas the core Levels 1 to 6 is very much a step-by-step program delivered by the same teacher as all the other videos on the ProSpanish YouTube channel. And while the style is very similar to what you'll be used to from these videos on the channel, the key difference is that every lesson carefully builds on the previous lessons so that you can really feel that progress of going from very little or no Spanish up to a level where you can confidently hold a conversation in Spanish. So again, that's available exclusively from prospanish.co.uk. Okay, let's do some practice. I will just say a phrase. You look at the table and tell me what it means. So it's going to be very straightforward because we've only got 2 columns. What does this mean? Siento verte tan triste. Siento verte tan triste. I'm sorry to see you so sad. Sentimos molestarte. Sentimos molestarte. We're sorry to bother you. So it might be, sentimos molestarte, pero podemos. We're sorry to bother you, but can we? Whatever it might be. Siento llegar tarde. Siento llegar tarde. What does that mean? I'm sorry, I'm late. So we said earlier that, more literally, it's I'm sorry to arrive late, but in English we would say I'm sorry I'm late, but that construction doesn't work in Spanish. You have to say I'm sorry to arrive late. What does this mean? Sentimos tener que decirte esto. Sentimos tener que decirte esto. We're sorry to have to tell you this. How about siento decepcionarte o siento decepcionarte? For example, siento decepcionarte, pero no puedo ir a la fiesta contigo. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I can't go to the party with you. Okay, let's switch it around and see if you can. What we'll do is we'll just start off to make it a bit easier. We'll start off and we'll just say the I'm sorry plus the infinitive without the rest of the phrase, and then we'll add more to it later. Okay, how do you say I'm sorry to arrive? Siento llegar. What is it for I'm sorry to not be able? Siento no poder. Siento no poder. How about we're sorry to have to? Sentimos tener que. How would you say, I'm sorry to see you? Siento verte. Siento verte. I'm sorry to see you. Okay, let's make some fuller phrases now. How would you say, we're sorry to cancel at the last minute or the last hour? Sentimos cancelar a última hora. Sentimos cancelar a última hora. How about, I'm sorry I can't help you. I'm sorry that I can't help you. Siento no poder ayudarte. Siento no poder ayudarte. How about, we're sorry to bother you, but sentimos molestarte, pero... So it might be, sentimos molestarte, pero puedes bajar el volumen. We're sorry to bother you, but can you turn down the volume? How would you say, we're sorry to have to tell you this. Sentimos tener que decirte esto. Sentimos tener que decirte esto. How about, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Siento decepcionarte. O siento decepcionarte. How about, we're sorry that we can't go to the meeting. Sentimos no poder asistir a la reunión. Sentimos no poder asistir a la reunión. Okay, so before we move on to the more advanced part of this lesson, another reminder that the ProSpanish Levels 1 to 6 course is available exclusively from prospanish.co.uk. Okay, so let's move on to the more advanced part. Okay, so have a look at what we've got here. I'm going to reveal it all in one go this lesson. So we've got a lot of the similar type of vocabulary as before. So we've got arrive late. We've got to have to tell you this. The difference is that here we're going to use the construction I'm sorry they. So it's not I'm sorry I'm sorry they, and then the past. So for example, I'm sorry they were late. I'm sorry they bothered you or annoyed you. I'm sorry, we're sorry that they disappointed you. Okay, so let's start off with the siento. And because we're not going to be using the infinitive, we can't use the infinitive because the subject has changed. The person that's sorry and the person that did the action, they're two different people, so we need to use que. I'm sorry that they did this. We're sorry that they did this. And when it's siento que, it's always followed by the subjunctive. And because we're going to be referring to the past, we're sorry that they did this, that they arrived late, that they bothered you, then we need to have the past subjunctive, which is called the imperfect subjunctive. And just very quickly, this is how you construct it. You just start off with the usual non-subjunctive past, the preterite. So they arrived is llegaron, llegaron. Cancelaron, pudieron. So you start off with the they preterite, and you just substitute the ron for ran. Substitute ron for ran. So you take off the ron and add ran. And the good thing about that is it works for the irregulars as well. So they were able to, so the straightforward preterite, pudieron, pudieron. To make that into the past subjunctive, just take off the ron and add ran, pudieran, pudieran. So let's start off with you identifying some phrases first. What does this mean? Siento que tuvieran que decirte esto. Siento que tuvieran que decirte esto. I'm sorry that they had to, tuvieran que, tell you this. I'm sorry that they had to tell you this. Or maybe we'd say, I'm sorry that they had to tell you that. Eso. Siento que tuvieran que decirte eso. How about sentimos que te molestaran. Sentimos que te molestaran. We're sorry that they bothered you. What does this mean? Sentimos que llegaran tarde. Sentimos que llegaran tarde. We're sorry that they arrived late. And as we saw earlier, in English we're more likely to say, we're sorry that they were late. What does this mean? Siento que no pudieran ayudarte. Siento que no pudieran ayudarte. I'm sorry that they couldn't help you. Or I'm sorry that they weren't able to help you. Sentimos que cancelaran a última hora. Sentimos que cancelaran a última hora. We're sorry that they cancelled at the last minute. Okay, let's swap around and see if you can make the constructions. I'm sorry that they were late. What would that be? Siento que llegaran tarde. Siento que llegaran tarde. How about, we're sorry that they couldn't attend the meeting. Siento, or sentimos, because I just said we are sorry, sentimos que no pudieran asistir a la reunión. Sentimos que no pudieran asistir a la reunión. We're sorry that they couldn't help you. What would that be? Sentimos que no pudieran ayudarte. Sentimos que no pudieran ayudarte. How about, I'm sorry that they had to tell you that. Siento que tuvieran que decirte eso. Siento que tuvieran que decirte eso. And we can very easily go from this to he or she just by removing the N. So, siento que María llegara tarde. I'm sorry that Maria was late. Siento que mi hijo llegara tarde. I'm sorry my son was late. How would you say, I'm sorry that he cancelled at the last minute? Siento que cancelara a última hora. Siento que cancelara a última hora. How about, we're sorry that she disappointed you. Sentimos que te decepcionara. Sentimos que te decepcionara. O sentimos que te decepcionara. And finally, I'm sorry that she wasn't able to attend the meeting. Siento que no pudiera asistir a la reunión. Siento que no pudiera asistir a la reunión. And that concludes today's ProSpanish lesson. As mentioned earlier, if you're looking to become a confident and a competent speaker of Spanish, head over to prospanish.co.uk, where you can download the full Levels 1 to 6 course.